Hey good lifers, welcome back to the channel. It is lovely to have you here. And as spring breathes new life into the world, we are going to be celebrating a little bit of spring by preserving one of the best herbs that you can find out foraging during springtime, and that is wild garlic. Before we do that though, this background's not very exciting, so let's change it. That's a bit better. So today we're going to be preserving wild garlic in 3 different ways, and each of the ways preserves that little essence of spring that really makes wild garlic such a lovely herb to have. Isn't it wonderful to be able to have a taste of spring on your pantry shelf every single day of the year? That's exactly what we're going to do today, and I'm so glad you're going to join me. But before we get started with today's video, it is actually Spring Equinox today, and I had the pleasure of going down to Stonehenge and joining in with all of the celebrations that are going on. I had such a lovely time, and I thought I might share with you some of the highlights.
May be peace throughout the whole world. How do you be?
Happy Equinox! Here at Stonehenge, my favourite place in the world, and where I got married.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Lovely. It's a bit cloudy though. The sun's supposed to be coming up there, and it's not much sun, but happy Equinox! So speaking of spring gifts, wild garlic is one of those things that I look forward to so much when it arrives in the year. It just carpets the forest floor with this lovely pungent green leaf that just smells absolutely lovely. And the little white flowers are also kind of that nice peppery mix between a chive and garlic scent. It's really, really tasty. And it's something that since we started foraging it, I've really looked forward to doing it every single year. And I really thought it'd be lovely to share that with you as well. Foraging wild garlic is nature's way of going, wake up good lifers, spring is here. So let me take you back to last year, and you can have just a little bit of a look of how we foraged the leaves, what leaves we were looking for and what we were finding, before we jump straight into our preserving for this year. So we've got our foraging basket ready. G has just gone into the patch to find a load of garlic. We're trying to find the leaves that are a little bit greener rather than the leaves that are a little bit dead. Sorry?
The younger leaves.
The younger leaves. So generally they're the ones that kind of grow up from the middle, rather than the outside leaves that are a bit kind of grotty at the moment.
Good. They're all fairly good, but you get a lot more of a delicate taste, and they aren't quite as stringy with the newer ones. As you get older, they become a little bit more fibrous. The good thing is that you can actually eat the flowers. They're quite a mild garlicky taste, but they are lovely flavour, really mild garlic instead of the strong bulb flavour that you get from a shop bought garlic. So we're really fortunate to be in this really big woodland near us, and the whole ground is just covered with it. This whole area here, you can see, is basically wild garlic and cleavers. There's a few other bits in here, like we've got some cowslip here as well, but mostly, yeah, it's wild garlic and cleavers. And if you watch our first aid balm video, which we will stick in a card above there somewhere, you know how useful cleavers are, so we might pick some of them as well today, we'll see. So just a quick example, this is the kind of size that we're looking for. We don't mind them being a little bit bigger, but if you're going to get a salad, you want more one this kind of size. So you can see the size difference between those two. So if I put them there like that, you can see them against my hand there. Obviously, we might also pop in a couple of the flowers, because the flowers are quite pretty. So here is a really good example of why you need to be careful picking wild garlic and lords and ladies, because this patch here, loads of wild garlic. This one is a lords and ladies. This one is a wild garlic. This one lords and ladies. This one wild garlic. You can see they are definitely different, but they're very, very similar and very close together. This is one of the lords and ladies with the stamen growing out here. So once you know what you're looking for, it does become abundantly obvious. But if we zoom out, on a quick glance and inspection, Hide and seek.
It is definitely a game of hide and seek. So fast forward to today, and we are ready to jump into the kitchen and get some preserving done. We'll begin by washing and chopping the wild garlic. meticulously preparing it for the transformation that lies ahead. As we work, let's reflect on the importance of preservation in our self-sufficient lifestyle. By capturing the fleeting flavours of each season, we not only nourish our bodies, but also forge an unbreakable bond with the land that sustains us. We preserve to savour, to remember, and to honour the cycles that govern our existence. The wild garlic needs a little bit of a wash just to make sure that you haven't got any nasties and bugs on it. That's something that we don't want in our salads or our pestos or other things that we're making today. This is also a great opportunity for you to have a quick glance through what you've picked and make sure that you're actually only including just wild garlic and perhaps not some of the less savoury things that made it into our basket. Once you've done giving your garlic a wash, you need to pat it dry. You don't need to do it overly well, just enough to take most of the moisture off of it. From there, we're going to transfer it over into a food processor to chop it up. You can definitely do this process by hand, but I just found that a food processor was a lot faster. Once your wild garlic is chopped up to a consistency that you're happy with, pour it out and pop it into a bowl. Now we've got something that we can work with. As this is going to be the starting point for all three of our preservation methods today, I'm going to separate some out into a separate bowl just to make sure I keep some aside. First up, let's talk about preserving wild garlic into flavoured oil. This preservation method is really simple and easy to do. It only takes a few minutes and it means that you can have the taste of wild garlic throughout the whole year, which I always think is a bit of a bonus. All you need for this method is chopped up wild garlic like we've just done. You need some nice high quality oil and you need an ice cube tray and a freezer. That's about it. So let's jump in and have a look at how we do it. Choose a high quality oil like extra virgin olive oil or avocado oil. Pack fresh, washed and dried wild garlic into an ice cube tray. I like to use the silicone one because it makes removal of the ice cubes a lot easier. Slowly pour the oil over the garlic, ensuring it's fully submerged. Pop your ice cube tray into the freezer and allow it to freeze overnight. I like to pop the cubes out when they're fully frozen and transfer them to a silicone bag. This makes for much easier storage for me and it frees up the tray for use again quite quickly. You can keep your icy oil cubes in the freezer for up to about a year. Plenty of time for you to go out and grab the next fresh harvest for a taste of spring even through those cold wintry nights. When you're ready to use the cube, pop it into your frying pan and allow it to melt. I've put this cube in with some chopped chicken breast. This simple technique, you're going to have a nice flavourful oil right at your fingertips, ready to add a little bit of flavour to all sorts of dishes. Each cube becomes a little burst of flavour and I think it's really nice. And I really enjoy adding it to all sorts of little dishes throughout the year. It just kind of preserves that taste of spring, which is something I think we all want. Next thing, we are moving on to one of my favourite preservation methods for wild garlic, and that is wild garlic pesto. The transformation of these humble leaves into a vibrant, flavour-packed condiment is nothing short of magical. It's a real celebration in a jar, and I know that you're going to love it. So let's jump in and see how we do it. We'll first toast off some pine nuts. You can use other nuts too, such as walnuts. We're tossing them well so that they're fairly evenly brown. This will help them to release their own oils and nutty flavour into the pesto. Then we'll add them into the food processor and blend until they're just small chunks. Combined with the wild garlic, toasted nuts, some grated parmesan or similar cheese, which you can see I've completely forgotten to add here, which I will add later, your oil and a squeeze of lemon juice. Pulse until the mixture forms a coarse paste, adjusting seasoning with salt and pepper to taste. Transfer the pesto to sterilised jars, pressing down to remove any air pockets. Water bath for the correct amount of time according to your altitude and to help the jars form a seal. Once water bathed, allow the jars to cool before storing. Once open, keep the pesto in the fridge. Conventional wisdom says it should last up to 1 week in the fridge, but you're the best judge of that. Pesto is such a vibrant and versatile condiment. You can add it to pasta, you can add it to stews, you can add it to sandwiches, you can add it to pretty much everything. And it just gives that little hint of extra flavour, which is something that I really like. During the summertime, I like to spread it on sandwiches, especially, and toast. Oh, that really does taste good. Toast is really good. And it tastes fantastic mixed into chicken and pasta dishes. Very, very big hit in my house. Our final method of preservation is actually dehydrating. This is a time-honoured technique, and it just means that you have got a ready supply of wild garlic on your shelves, ready to add into all sorts of dishes all throughout the year. It's really, really easy to do and you don't need any special equipment. Let's take a look at how we do it. Spread the chopped wild garlic on a single layer in dehydrator trays. I use baking paper cut into thirds in my dehydrator to stop the smaller pieces from falling through the gaps. You can also use an oven on low with parchment lined baking sheets. Dehydrate at a low temperature, around about 46 degrees centigrade, that's around about 115 degrees Fahrenheit, until completely dry and crisp. This typically takes around about 12 hours. You should hear the crisp of the wild garlic in your fingers when you get it out of the dehydrator, just like this. As your dehydrator is going to take a while you're mating, make sure you have some fancy labels for your dried wild garlic jar. This step definitely isn't necessary, but it certainly is fun. Once the wild garlic has dehydrated and you've allowed it to cool for a few minutes, transfer the dehydrated wild garlic into a clean jar. You'll probably want to break up the larger crispy bits at this point, or you can whiz it up in a blender and make it into a finer powder. Top tip, add a few food safe moisture absorbers to the jar. This keeps the moisture from getting in, and it stops your crispy wild garlic from getting soggy. Store in a cool, dark place. Again, most recipes say you can keep your dried wild garlic for up to a year, but you're the judge for your kitchen though. By gently dehydrating the garlic, we can preserve its really nice crisp spring flavour, and it can be added to all sorts of things like soups and stews as normal. If you really want to, you can elevate your bread making by adding these herbs to bread with other bits and pieces. It can really add a lovely flavour as well as a lovely colour to all sorts of dishes. And let's face it, it's really easy to do and it doesn't require any special equipment. Dehydrated wild garlic is such a good option, and it's just like that little whiff of a spring woodland on a sunny day. Absolutely lovely. If you wanted a little extra hack for this one, you can add some of your dried herbs to some salt and make some garlic salt. That is definitely a winner, and I recommend doing that. And there you have it. There was 3 ways to preserve wild garlic. All of them individual, all of them have their own ways of using it, but all of them are versatile, and it allows you to keep that lovely flavour of spring right in your jar every single day of the year. In my opinion, preservation is way more than a practical endeavour. It's something that allows us to actually preserve a part of the season. And although we want to be living in harmony with the season, it's lovely to just bring those extra seasons in all throughout the different times of the year, especially in the winter when it's dark and gloomy. Just having that little sprinkle of spring is always wanted. So let's raise a toast to a jar of wild garlic, freshly preserved, and to enjoy the abundance of spring. We have the promise of new beginnings, and we're reminded of our unbreakable bond with the earth, which I think is a good thing. So as we wrap up today, I would like to know from you, how do you celebrate spring on your homestead? Do you have any particular recipes, any particular tips, any rituals that you like to do as a family? I'd really like to know about them. Drop them in the comment section below and I'll be super excited to read them. Thank you for joining me today. It has been really lovely to have you along. I can't wait to go and sample some of the stuff we've just cooked together. And here is me wishing you a very, very abundant spring and a happy spring equinox. See you next time.